Welcome in, welcome in. This is the Champagne Room podcast, and we have a special episode for you today with some Illinois NFL news. And I am joined by Mookie Alexander of Field Goals. It is SB Nation, Seattle Seahawks website. Our partner, and Devon Witherspoon, who Illinois fans have a big connection to, got paid, to say the least. So, Mookie, thanks for joining.
Yeah, it's great to be on. Yes, it's good for Illinois alums to see that in a different environment. If Kenneth Walker wasn't as dominant, or if Witherspoon's breakup was actually ruled a sack and therefore a strip sack, Devon Witherspoon could have been Super Bowl MVP. Like, that's how good he was, and it's fitting that he ends up being one of the big paydays this offseason for the Seahawks, or I guess, semi offseason. We're in the middle of preseason right now.
Yeah, and that seems good for both sides that got wrapped up. And I know it didn't sound like Spoon was making it like a big deal or anything, but that's always got to be refreshing when that's not lingering into the season. So let's start with the contract itself. I know college sports and college fans were slowly creeping into that money contract realm. Who knows if we'll ever actually get there, but at least for now, he's the highest paid corner in the league. So what does the contract mean? Kind of what are the details, and like what does it show that like the Seahawks believe in Witherspoon?
So, as you said, for the next 5 minutes or so, until Christian Gonzalez signs his deal, I guess, Devon Witherspoon is the highest paid corner in the NFL. 4-year extension worth 132 million, with 101 million guaranteed. But the caveat there is that his extension actually doesn't kick in for another 2 years. He's still playing on the fourth year of his deal, which is the fourth of his 5 years of his rookie contract. They picked up his fifth-year option. The only thing they did was just tweak the signing bonus and some other stuff so that he's not playing at the traditional rookie scale for his fourth year. But once the contract is reworked, he'll start to see the big part of his money in the 2028 season. So on average, it's about, in the high 20 some odd million a year for Witherspoon, which is still a lot of money. The main thing is that, yes, Witherspoon got the big payday that he deserved. And what it means for the Seahawks is that they have a cornerback whom they believe in long term, which is something that they have not had since Richard Sherman. And I am not exaggerating. If you look at John Schneider, our general manager, his history of extending corners after Sherman is pretty sparse. I mean, there's Jeremy Lane, whose extension was a cheap one, ill-fated, and he was traded for Dwayne Brown literally, I think, a year or two into his 3-year extension. And then Josh Jobe, Seattle's other cornerback out of Alabama, he was extended earlier this offseason, but it's a 3-year contract extension worth, I think, under $30 million. So that's not a whole lot. That's a contract you can get out of. But when you're paying top line money to a guy like Witherspoon, you believe in him as one of your franchise cornerstones, pardon the pun. And he is absolutely he's earned it. Seattle was not one to draft corners early under Schneider, and of course, previously Pete Carroll when he was here in Seattle. And part of it was because they found so much success with guys drafted in the fourth and fifth and seventh rounds and undrafted. But Witherspoon was different. He apparently impressed so much at his media day or his interview with the team during the NFL Combine. I think they obviously brought him in for a 30 visit. He just blew them away to the point where everybody was thinking, all right, they're going to draft Jalen Carter because they need some help on the interior. And they swerve and take Devon Witherspoon. And there might have been some question marks over that because of what was an immediately bigger need. But the thing with Witherspoon is he is so good. He fills multiple needs that you don't normally get out of a corner. Like, he is not, I don't mean this as a criticism, he's not a lockdown corner like Pat Surtain or Christian Gonzalez. He's not this airtight. He's not Richard Sherman. But what he is a guy who can cover well. He can tackle extraordinarily well. He can play the run like few other corners can. And he is a prolific blitzing cornerback. So a guy who like Witherspoon having just one interception over 3 seasons, or 2 interceptions rather over 3 seasons, I'm not worried about it. Those picks will come one of these days. If you're not getting thrown to, or if you're making impacts in other ways that corners traditionally don't, you're going to get the money. And that's what he ended up getting.
And you just hit on a handful of my questions. So that was all great stuff. And I'm sure, yeah, like the interceptions thing can be such a flawed stat, and Illinois fans could back that up because Spoon's last year at Illinois, I don't think he maybe had two or three picks, and it was because nobody would throw at him because that would be ridiculous to throw at him because the guy was never open, and it just felt like it really eliminated a whole part of the field. And that the hit that he had against Indiana, which maybe you've seen his last year at Illinois, was really
Yes.
when Illinois fans were like, oh my gosh, this guy has the tools, has the traits, and the thing, yeah, like he's not as big as like a Pat Surtain, but he just plays so aggressive and he's so fun to watch. And I'm super glad that it's panned out and that he's been able to, for the most part, stay healthy and get that deal. And you kind of hinted at it in the draft process with maybe taking Jalen Carter, which obviously has proven that would have been an okay pick too. But what was like the main intriguing factor of Witherspoon and kind of how has that played out these first few years in Seattle? Because Illinois fans too, Spoon kind of came out of nowhere. Like I'm sure Seahawks fans have learned that he wasn't a huge recruit, showed up on campus late, then had some flashes, and then obviously just took off his last year and became a shutdown corner. So like what was the biggest intriguing piece about Spoon? And then how has Snyder and now McDonald seen that play out?
I think it's just his incredible versatility to combine with his aggressiveness. You know how some toy dogs, smaller dogs have got that like pit bull complex where they think they're a much bigger dog than they actually are. Witherspoon is a cornerback and not a huge cornerback who's got a linebacker's mentality. And what I mean by that is you mentioned the hit against Indiana. You would have thought that Ray Lewis came back in Devon Witherspoon's body. I mean, that was such a ridiculously violent hits, but he's got this unrelenting aggression and smart aggression too. He's not taking silly penalties, because there are some players. Seattle drafted a guy named Marquise Blair like several years ago in 2019 out of Utah. Very aggressive safety. I mean, he was injured a lot, but part of why he ended up being a bust is he could not channel his aggression into something more sensible, playing within the rules of the game. He got penalized quite a bit. So with Witherspoon, I also believe that his personality fits what the Seahawks like. I mean, he would have fit very well in the old Legion of Boom, but now with this dark side defense, Witherspoon is one of the alphas on this team, or at least one of the alphas in the secondary. And I think he's just continuing to get better. Having that willingness to learn, having that willingness to be coached also means a ton. And he transcends the two coaches. Like he was drafted by Pete Carroll, or at least drafted under Pete Carroll. There was some debate over how much control or final say Carroll did have over the last couple of drafts compared to drafts before that. But it's not like Pete was just a total figurehead those last couple of years. I think with Carroll, he just loves guys like Witherspoon for as the person, as the football player. But with Mike McDonald, from a pure schematic standpoint, the ways that he can be moved around, like he has kind of changed the whole stigma against, oh, he's just a slot corner, because that was one of the knocks on taking Witherspoon so high. It's like, man, he's just going to be playing in the slot. Well, we're seeing the value of slot receivers. We're seeing these more spread out offenses, the willingness to have a more 11 personnel, and even with this rise of 12 personnel, again having two tight ends on the field, Witherspoon can kick to the outside. I mean, he can play down in the box where he's going to be coming off the edge and looking to get his hands and nose dirty in the run game. So it's Witherspoon's ability to master so many different aspects of cornerback play and provide some supplemental help. I think that all of that encompassing just blew the Seahawks away in terms of what he can provide to the organization. And it just panned out. When he got to the league, he was on one of the league's worst defenses. And now he is on the league's best defense. And he has been a huge part of that transformation under Mike McDonald.
I just wanted to say we're proud to partner with State Farm agent Brian Hansen, dedicated Illini fan. Just as we work to bring you coverage of Illinois athletics, Brian brings the same energy and commitment to serving his clients. If you're looking for a local professional who cares about the community and the orange and blue, visit brianismyguy.com today and see why so many Illini fans trust Brian Hansen and his team for their home, auto, business, and life insurance needs. This segment is also brought to you by Chiefs Naturals. Chief is proudly named after the University of Illinois mascot, and to keep him fueled, Chief's Naturals created premium all-natural treats with 0 mystery ingredients, perfect for your dog. They are officially launching this September. Head over to chiefsnaturals.com right now and join the VIP list. You'll get exclusive email updates about the launch. You don't want to miss the first Chiefs Naturals drop. Again, that is chiefsnaturals.com. Simple ingredients, epic tail wags.
Yeah, man, that defense was nasty last year, and I'm sure it's going to be again this year. And it's funny too. I feel like the defense was crazy, but a lot of times when people talk about the Super Bowl or bring up the Super Bowl, they think of Sam Darnold and JSN, which were obviously had both amazing seasons, but the defense was just so killer that really let them, when they needed them to down the stretch. So a couple really cool moments. This leads me into my next question. I've seen on Hard Knocks. I love Hard Knocks. I'm a sucker for it. I know people have a lot of people have gotten over it, but we've gotten to see a couple cool inside moments of Witherspoon, and like when he got the contract and the players are celebrating him. And then I saw he was in that like leadership meeting with McDonald and some of the other guys on the team. But what's it been like seeing Hard Knocks at training camp? And I know McDonald, was like, hey, just be ourselves, kind of ignore it. But that's got to add an extra layer of pressure. And kind of what's it been like too, then to watch Hard Knocks and see clips of it and see like, oh, these are people that we cover and that we watch every Sunday that the nation's kind of getting to see.
Yes, I am obviously biased, but I am gripped by this Hard Knocks series. Not so much the last episode because it involved 2 Seahawks having season-ending injuries caught in very clear audio, but the Witherspoon aspect of it, I figured that he was going to be one of the early stars of Hard Knocks because he's such a fun character. He's a funny, seemingly down-to-earth dude, and I'd like to think that having this huge contract extension is not going to change who he is as a person. I mean, you see how supportive his teammates were, which is kind of that 12 as one mentality, that motto, that mantra that Mike McDonald preaches. It's about the collective and not the individual. And I'd say that's different from the Legion of Boom era, where there were definitely some egos at play. It's not like this is an egoless, Seahawks team. You're going to have some, especially when it comes to sports. But there was some friction with the Legion of Boom years that I don't really see with this Super Bowl winning team. And having covered it, going to the Super Bowl week down in the San Francisco Bay Area and seeing how loose and relaxed everybody was. I saw Devon Witherspoon kind of joking around with a couple of people who he was at the podium, and that's where they normally have, a set of boots for media people to ask questions. And he's just kidding around with them because I think there was a period where nobody was at his booth for a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just joking around, and then people eventually did come over. And of course, I was too busy to really hang around and ask him questions. I'm busy with other Seahawks, but yes, I think one of the most telling things with Witherspoon is that he could have done a quote hold in. He could have shown up to camp and then essentially not participated in drills and not risk suffering an injury in training camp amid ongoing negotiations. He was participating. I was down in Renton, Washington for a couple of the Seahawks training camps, including one where I am sort of in the Hard Knock shot, but I'm obscured by 2 people above me. But I mean, Spoon was participating as normal. There might have been one day where they took it lighter, maybe like equivalent of a veteran's rest day, but that's not the end of the world. Everybody can get it, and he's already earned that right as a 4th-year player. But the fact that Witherspoon in that first episode was, he's just talking about, I'm just here to do whatever it takes to win. I think that speaks highly of his character, that he would have been within his rights, as I said, to hold in, even with 2 years remaining left on his contract, and wait until the contract stuff clears and then he can go to practicing. But he was pretty much a full go every other time up until the deal got done. And for any concerns that it was going to drag on because of him and Christian Gonzalez having the same agent, that ended up not mattering in the end. And I'd say it's a great deal for both parties. It's great for Seattle that they're able to get the extension, the meat of the extension happening a little bit later on in his deal. Like, as I said, in 2028, 2029. And it's great for Witherspoon that he was able to get the money without kind of making this a more public battle. He could have, and he didn't.
Yeah, those are never fun, and it's always like it always feels like the fan ultimately loses out because you're like, "Man, I just wanna watch, like, one of my favorite players or my favorite player for my favorite team play. I don't wanna hear about the money situation." But I get for the player, it's like, that's life-changing money, like, that's a big deal. You don't wanna get hurt, and I'm not just trying to gas up the Seahawks. Like, I love when they show the aerial shot of their training facility and stuff, and it's, like, on the lake and, like, oh my gosh, it's just that's got to be a great place to play. And I like the clip too where McDonald was joking around with Robert Saleh about like how they're kind of being spoiled, you know, playing out in the beautiful weather, and then they go to Nashville and it's like 90 degrees and humid and stuff like that. And because yeah, it just looks awesome out there. But I think last question. This is more generic Seahawks. I'm a huge diehard football fan. I'm a big Lions fan. Grew up in Michigan, and a ton of people that listen to this and Champagne Room fans are Bears fans. So that means that in order for either of those teams, Lions, Bears, um, to get to the Super Bowl, they would obviously have to go through Seattle. And what's kind of the outlook? I know it's easy to be high on a team after they just won the Super Bowl and returned a lot of players, but Super Bowls are hard to get to. So what's like the realistic expectation? Or is there like a weakness on the team now? Kind of what are fans' thoughts and projections for the Seahawks this year?
I think that the Seahawks are poised to make another run at the Super Bowl. As far as repeating, it's unlikely just by history,
Mm.
and certainly when it comes to the history of teams repeating as champions, even on either side of the salary cap era, those are like truly all-time great teams with all-time great quarterbacks. So we're talking Terry Bradshaw, Bart Starr, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Troy Aikman. All those are Hall of Famers, or in Mahomes' case, a future Hall of Famer. Sam Darnold has had a tremendous career turnaround, but he's going to have to stack a few more seasons to be in Hall of Fame consideration. So that part, I think, is why there's some I don't want to say trepidation, but some skepticism from national media at large as to whether the Seahawks can pull this off again. I mean, everything really just broke right. They didn't have a lot of serious injuries. They had injuries, but not too many that were catastrophic season-ending injuries to key players compared to, say, the San Francisco 49ers. But the offense clicked at the right time. They were having a little bit of a lull toward the end of the season, and then the running game clicked and the passing game was able to tear apart the Rams defense in the NFC Championship game. You had a Darnold outdueling Matthew Stafford in a classic. The defense, other than the Rams, really, and one game against the Buccaneers when they were missing a lot of guys, they were just locked down pretty much the whole year. So can you repeat that given the guys you lost? You didn't lose too many guys, but those were key guys you lost. Kenneth Walker, your Super Bowl MVP, is gone. Is Jadarian Price going to be that successor, if you will? Are they going to do the running back by committee approach with him, Zach Charbonnet, Emmanuel Wilson, George Holani? That remains to be seen how that works out. New offensive coordinator with Clint Kubiak gone. So Brian Fleury coming over from the 49ers. He is certainly not going to just carbon copy Kubiak's offense. That'd be stupid. So he's going to provide his own wrinkle. So it remains to be seen, because they first starters haven't played in preseason, whether or not there will be some growing pains, whether or not defenses are going to adjust to a lot of what made the Seahawks so great with their play action, shot plays, and their outside zone running schemes. Defensively is going to be interesting because the cornerback room, I say this ironically with Spoon getting his money and Job getting his money, there are some real question marks now that Reek Woolen is gone to the Philadelphia Eagles. That third quarterback spot is not really settled yet. There's Nehemiah Pritchett, Noah Igbenogany, and then we're speaking of the Lions. Terrion Arnold is going to sign eventually, but he might not be available anytime soon for obvious reasons, pending what his court case does and depending on what the NFL decides as far as a suspension. And then they signed Trayvon Diggs just to kind of see what he has left. He's on a veteran's minimum deal, but that cornerback room is sort of shaky in terms of the depth below Job and Witherspoon. You don't know really what you're going to get, and it's highly unlikely that any of the guys I mentioned, including two corners that were drafted in the 7th round, and Andre Fuller and Michael Dansby, are going to be able to replace Reek. I doubt that any of them is going to basically match that level of productivity, even though Reek certainly had a lot of knuckleheaded moments. And then the pass rushing depth, as great as it's been, they lost Boye Mafe, replaced him with Dante Fowler, but there's not a lot of pass rushing depth below the top 4 that they have. So they were very blessed to not have key injuries, long-term injuries at that position. If they do this time around, I think they're almost obligated to make a trade, as long as it's before the trade deadline, because there's just not a lot there. So I think that the Seahawks are going to be in tough, of course, with the Rams. The 49ers, if they're able to get healthy anytime soon. The Lions are going to be in the mix. The Bears, I don't know quite yet what to make of them. They could be a regression team. They could get better with Caleb Williams having another year under Ben Johnson, but the NFC is just a dogfight. AFC, you've had the Chiefs make it a billion times, the Patriots make it a billion times, the Steelers multiple times with Big Ben. The NFC is hard, so hard to even get back a second year in a row or even a second time period. So ultimately, this is still a great team under Mike Macdonald, a great roster. A lot of luck is involved in all these Super Bowl runs, regardless of which team you root for. But I'm optimistic that the Seahawks team, at the bare minimum, is going to be in the deeper rounds of the NFC playoffs.
Yeah, so much returning, and seems like such a great core of guys and coaching staff, and yeah, it's a great place to be in, and yeah, looking forward to it. Hard to believe it's coming up here pretty soon. So Mookie, thank you so much for joining us. Let people know if you want to plug Field Gulls, or people want to keep up with Witherspoon and what the Seahawks are doing. Yeah, what do you guys got coming up?
Yeah, well, we'll be talking about Leonard Williams' contract extension because it happened a little bit before we went on air to record this. So another core piece of Seattle's monstrous defensive line. Him and Byron Murphy have just been phenomenal. So Leonard's going to stick around a little longer. So definitely be talking about that, breaking down that contract extension. And then the hard world of roster cuts, which I know is going to be one of the centerpieces of the final Hard Knocks episode. That's going to be coming this weekend. So definitely going to be covering that. So you can find me on Twitter at Mookie Alexander. On Field Gulls, I run the Field Gulls account. So it's at Field Gulls there. It's kind of the same on Blue Sky. If you prefer Blue Sky, it's just you got to add a .bsky.social. Yeah, so look out for me on the Seahawks Syndicate. It is not a specific YouTube channel, but it is a collaboration with myself, Bryce Coots of the Hawks Eye podcast, Brandon Kane of the Hawks Nest, and Dan Viens of the Seahawks Forever podcast. Those three have YouTube channels. So if you're a Seahawks fan, feel free to subscribe to any of their podcasts. They do great work. So we'll be just talking ball over the next couple of weeks, and then game one against the New England Patriots, a familiar foe, but a very different team this time around. A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs weren't there the last time, and the Seahawks didn't have some key losses in free agency, some key additions. So I'm looking forward to it. Maybe others aren't. I was hoping Chicago would be the opening night opponent, but we'll get to see Chicago on a Monday night a little later on this season.
Yeah, so close. Awesome. Super Bowl rematch week one will definitely be great. Thanks again, Mookie. And so you said what's the Seahawks mantra? Like, whenever I let somebody go, like on the pod, I'm like, okay, what's your team's like mantra or whatever? So what do the Seahawks fans say to each other?
They say go Hawks. But
go Hawks?
Yes, just a simple go Hawks. But when it comes to Mike Macdonald, it's 12 as one. Seahawks fans are the 12s. Because of legal reasons, thanks to Texas A&M, but it is truly 12 as one. One with the team, one with the players and the organization as a whole, and I don't expect that to change under new ownership.
Yeah, that's another big storyline. But thanks so much, Mookie, and this has been the Champagne Room Podcast. ILLINI and 12 as one. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.